What if I told you you could take advantage of the open world to heal yourself, buff your attacks, and give you shields? What's up everyone, this is Strife, and in this video I'll be demonstrating every weapon, artifact, and character talent that can be activated through attacking animals, plants, trees, and rocks. Since this is going to be a longer video, I've left timestamps down below, so skip to the characters or weapons you're most interested in. Not every character that I tested will have timestamps since their passives didn't work, but I'll verbally say that in the video when the time comes. Without further ado, let's get into which character talents and or passives can be used on the world. Can be used on the world. The world. Starting with everyone's favorite starter, Avatar's second passive in animal form regenerates 2 HP for 5 seconds after you achieve a kill with your E. This works on any meat-dropping animals in the world, but not on ones like crabs, fish, and butterflies, etc. These meat-dropping animals will be the primary catalyst for our kill/damage passives in this video. Next is Dandelion Thighs. Her first passive enables her auto attacks a 50% chance to heal your party, which scales off of 15% of her own attack. This works on animals, but works best on frozen boars, since you can't KO them in one hit, and you can continue healing your team until they're at full health. And no, I will not condone attacking dogs and cats. They are our friends, but it works on them too, since they're immortal. At this point in the video, you may be asking, why should I go through the trouble of attacking animals to heal? Well, my answer is, if you don't want to use food, or your healing statues are dry, this is the most efficient way of doing it, without having to use up your ults or put your skills on cooldown. Speaking about healing, American Idol has a similar ability to her sister when her E is up, however it can't be activated from attacking animals. While on the topic of the Knights, Guido Mista's first passive heals himself for 15% of his attack after hitting enemies with his E, and this does not work on animals either. It's also worth noting that his C2, which extends his Q duration with every kill it gets, might work on animals. However, I can't test it since I don't have it, but let me know in the comments if you know if it works. Unfortunately, the same goes for Kaichowa Maid-sama. Her healing, which is enabled by her autos when her shield's up, doesn't work on enemies either. The reason why this video took so long is because I had to wait for animals to respawn after testing on them. Finally, for the last of the healers, we have Zombieland Saga. I don't have her, but I'd assume her heals can be procced by striking animals, since her mechanic is pretty similar to that of Jean's. And once again, something, comment if you know if it works. That's all for healers. Next we have Terrorism, and her first passive allows you a stamina-free charged attack that deals 50% increased damage. I'm pleased to tell you that this does work on all 4, animals, plants, rocks, and trees with fruit. For practical usage, you can strike a tree or something before engaging enemies to open up with a buffed up charge attack. Geomami is just like Klee in the sense that her autos have a mechanic where you can gather up to 3 extra rocks when you hit things, to increase the hit count and damage of her charge attack. And this works on all 4 as well, trees, animals, plants, and rocks. And for its application, it's the same with Klee, stock up on rocks before a fight to engage and start with a stronger charge attack. And these rocks will last indefinitely, so you don't have to worry about a timer. They'll disappear once you switch characters though. Law & Order has the exact same mechanic as Ningguang, however, since I don't have her, I'm just going to assume it works in the same way as hers. Which means in theory it should work on all 4 as well, and again, something comment. Finally, the last character with a passive that can be activated by the open world is Genshin's JoJo reference number 1, and he has the ability similar to Ningguang's and Yanfei's, where his tap E can create up to 3 electro sigils to increase the damage of his charged E. This does work on animals, However, since it has a duration of 18 seconds, it's not really worth it to try to hunt down 3 animals before a fight. Next is Grumpy Nun, and her first passive, which increases her crit rate by 12% for 5 seconds after striking an enemy's back, unfortunately does not work on animals. That's fine since 5 seconds isn't long enough of a duration for you to take advantage of this before a fight. Next up we got the girl who's scared of Kermit, and her E has a mechanic that intermittently sends out bursts of pyro damage if you hit at least 3 enemies with its initial swing. I personally didn't test this because gathering 3 animals isn't exactly an easy task, but my conclusion is that it should work, based on the wording and logic that we've seen prior in the other tests. And the last character that I want to talk about for open world enabled passives is Coco Goat, and her C1 regenerates 2 energies when hitting an enemy with either stages of her charged arrow. While I couldn't test this since I don't have Ganyu, let alone C1, I'd go on a limb and say that this probably works on animals, as the Favonius Series have a similar mechanic and you'll soon find out they work on animals. Moving on to artifacts, there are only 2 sets that I could find that could be potentially activated by the open world. Starting with the 4-piece Gambler set, it will reset your E cooldown after you achieve a kill with it, and I'm pleased to tell you that this does work on animals. However, you may be asking, why would you actively put your E on cooldown just to reload it? And that's a valid question, with a very situational answer. The only scenario where this could be of any use that I could think of is if you want to heal up with Xingqiu, since his cooldowns are a bit long. The other artifact set is the 4-piece Bloodstained Chivalry set, which will reduce your stamina cost to 0 for charge attacks for 10 seconds after achieving a kill. This also works in animals, and if you would like to see how to use up your entire stamina bar with this set for claymores, check out this video right here. Links in the description. Moving on to weapons, I'll be going over them while grouping them into different classes and by series if applicable. Starting with Claymores, while its Gravestone's ability is to increase your party's attack by 40% for 12 seconds after hitting an enemy whose HP is below 30%. Luckily the game counts one-hit KOs as below 30%, so you can activate this on animals right before a fight to buff up your team's attack. This is probably the most useful open world enabled passive in the video. Next is Blackcliff Slasher, and this increases your attack by 12% for 30 seconds after achieving a kill, with a max stack of 3, and this also works in animals. The real WGS restores 8% of your HP if you achieve a kill, and it totally works in animals as well if you need a quick heal. As for the last Claymore, the bell can create a shield upon taking damage. Finally, a non-animal only passive, and this can be procced by rushing boars, D's flowers, lightning, fire, and the electro rock. For this ability, you can head into battle with a shield if you're running a team without a dedicated tank. Moving on to swords, Aquila Favonia has a counterattack that heals you for 100% of your attack stat. And this is just like the bell in the sense that it can be activated by all of the open world elements that can proc its shield creation. Once again, another passive that's good for a quick heal. Next, Blacksword heals you for 60% of your attack when landing crits. This works pretty similarly to Jean and Chi-Chi's healing, and this works on animals as well. It's only ideal to heal using frozen boars unless you have a high crit rate. Normal and charge attacks with the Flute can stack up to 5 notes to unleash a stronger attack once all 5 are obtained, and this works on animals. And since each note lasts for 30 seconds, it might be worth it to hunt down some animals before a fight with this, since the duration is long enough. Iron Sting increases your elemental damage by 6% for 6 seconds, with a max stack of 2, and this works on animals, but I don't think it's super worth it for this one though. Speaking of craftable swords, the prototype Rancour can allow 4 stacks of attack and defense buffs after normal and charge attacking. And this also works in animals, but due to the 6-second duration of these, it's not too worth it either. Moving on to pole arms, the Jade Spear stacks 7 attack buffs from normal and charged attacks, and this does work on animals. However, I don't have it. The reason why I know it works is because my good friend tested it a few months back, but I don't have the footage. Deathmatch is the only other pole arm I could think of with a passive that might work, which deals with how many enemies are near your character. However, it seems that the game doesn't classify animals as enemies, so this doesn't work on them. Going over to bows, the compound bow stacks up to 4 attack and attack speed buffs when hitting with your normal and charge attacks, and this works in animals too. However, for maximum mileage, frozen boars are the way to go. And the other one is recurve bow, but since I don't have it at the moment, I couldn't test it, but its ability should work exactly the same as White Iron Greatsword, so it should work on animals as well. Moving over to Catalyst, the Solar Pearl can increase your auto attack's power when using your E or Q and vice versa, and this also works in animals, but due to the 6-second duration, it's not that worth it. I don't have either Twin Nephrite or the Wine and Song, but they increase attack and movement speed after achieving a kill, and hitting an enemy decreases your sprinting stamina, respectively. Based on the wording for both of these, I'd assume they work, but let me know if you know in the comments. Finally, getting into the different series, starting with my personal favorite, the Sacrificial Series has a chance to reload your E on hit, and this works on animals, just like the Gambler set. The Favonius Series has a chance to grant you elemental particles if you land a crit on an enemy. This does work on animals, and while this would be a really good passive to use in them to recharge your Qs, it's rather inconsistent since the animals are one-hit KOs and is tied to 2 chance-based draws, including your weapons and the character's crit rate. The Liyue Series increases your attack by 4% for 8 seconds every time you hit an enemy, with a max stack of 5. This works in animals, however, you would either need to strike a frozen board 5 times or hunt down 5 animals, so it's not really worth it to use animals for this ability. And finally, our last series and last passive, the Royal Series can stack 5 crit rate buffs upon striking enemies. Unfortunately, I don't own a single one, and the monthly shop doesn't have it this time around, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume it works, since the Favonius Series does too. Alright, that's the end of the video. I know it was a bit longer than my usuals, but I hope you got something from this, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Obviously, I don't have every character or weapon, so there's a pretty high chance I missed some. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and anyways, at this point I've gotten pretty close to hit 50-50 pity for Eula, so I'll see you next week in her simp video. Bye.